You are listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals about their wins, losses, lessons, stories, help you win in your local market. Today, my name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm generally joined with Vikram Deol. He's somewhere in the world right now. I think he's on a flight, and he accepted all of these invites to these podcasts today, but he didn't show up. But he told me, he gave me a fair warning. So I thought I would throw him under the bus a little bit there, because my guest today knows Vikram and knows Vikram well. I have Randy here with me, and I'm so excited about today's podcast, because as I was like going through kind of prepping for today, really realizing that, you know, we share a very, very similar ethos to life and to business. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited about what's going to conspire today around like just the wins, the losses, the lessons and stories that you can really provide to the real estate community, you know, especially that we were chatting off air prior to about, you know, having, you know, a similar coach as Vikram, you know, being a part of the Tom Ferry network. Randy, why don't you give us like kind of a high level overview on the kind of like who you are, where you're at in the world, give us kind of the Spark Notes version of like how you got here today and like the kind of even the team structure that you're currently running.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been in the business for just here under 14 years. Started obviously as an individual agent a long time ago. Lots of evolutions, lots of wins, lots of losses, lots of failing forward, lots of learning lessons along the way. And found my way to the Tom Ferry system, found my way into coaching, both as a recipient of that, and also as a coach for him. So I was in that system for quite some time as a coach. Then I started coaching my team directly as I started building that out. I really wanted to have singularity of focus around that and focus on building out my team and do it in a way where I can really be focused on each of them individually and really be able to give them the individual attention so I can make sure they were getting the wins that they needed so they could succeed. And that's what I've been doing for the last about 7 or 8 years now, really just being really focusing on the individual production of the agents, the successes of the agents by their own metrics, their own sense of what is quality of life to them, which we can talk about with the Stoicism and, you know, memento mori and all that kind of stuff. And really just being mindful of, you know, your time here on this earth and things of that nature. And all that good stuff. We're based out of Northern California. I mean, Southern California, but Northern Los Angeles. So we're in the San Fernando Valley area, but also Santa Clarita. So we're in that general neck of the woods. And yeah, lots to share, lots to cover.
We are going to unpack a lot, and I'm really excited. And I want to start, I think, honestly, the best place to start is around like your philosophy, because I think that obviously that has played, it sounds like it's played a big part of your business. And like, you know, I'm really curious, like, did you, you know, the memento mori stuff, the stoicism, the philosophy around life, and, you know, obviously that seeps into business. Like, was that like something that like you inherited from like family, or is this something that later on in life, like, can you unpack that a little for us? Because like not everyone like even potentially listening to this podcast even knows what stoicism is, or maybe you can even like, walk us through a little bit about like kind of even just that mindset that you have going into life, because obviously that plays a big portion into your business as well.
Absolutely. Well, you know what happened to me, this is a life shift, and I don't want to rabbit hole too much, but it is really important. I think that we all encounter things in life that ultimately makes a fundamental shift in the way we look at things and ultimately changes the direction of our life. And for me, a couple of years ago, my parents both died just suddenly, not together. It wasn't like a car accident or anything. They just both died just from health conditions and things, just randomly, you know, separated from a couple months. And when that happened, it made me reevaluate life, because it happened very unexpectedly, and then it was one, and then it was the other. And then it made me have to look and say, okay, well, I know we're all mortal. I know, you know, life is finite, and I know that things can happen suddenly, but now it's real. Like, it's not just some theoretical. This is real now. Now it's something that I'm actually experiencing in real time, not just, you know, things that have happened in life. You know, I've had friends pass away, car accidents and things of that nature and stuff, but it's different when it's your family and your immediate family. It's different. So it gave me this awareness that, you know what, life is super precious. I knew it, again, like in a theoretical, but it became more real and more actual. And it made me more committed to living every day with purpose, living with this concept of memento mori, which is just really realizing that life is finite and that you are going to die. You know, it's a Marcus Aurelius type quote where, it's based around the concept that you are going to die. So remember your mortality, remember that. So instead of it being a morbid thing, it's actually a good thing to realize that your life here is short. So make the most out of it. And I take that concept and I apply it towards my team members too, to make sure that they're doing the same thing, making sure that their why is realized, making sure that they're getting up every day and showing up to the office or showing up for appointments or calls to service the things that matter to them, because they might be young. They might be 25, 30 years old, 35 years old, but they might not have 5 more years. Something could happen out of nowhere, some fluke thing. And make sure that every day counts. Make sure you're having those meaningful connections with your family, your friends, the stuff that matters in business, but also personal. So all the stuff matters. So we touch on all that kind of stuff. So we have a holistic approach. So we have the business side, but we also have the personal side too.
I love that, because I think a lot of that seeps in, like, a lot of the, like, even how, like, the types of people you connect with, the types of people you attract, like a lot of those ethos to life really seep into our business and even like who we attract. Now, I'm really curious to know kind of the team structure that you have right now. Cause I know you work out of multiple offices. When you're attracting talent, are these things that you are looking for, like for those same type of like ethos or same type of mentality to life that they share? Is it important that they share those similar like principles, like core principles of life, or is this something that you think can be taught later on in life or taught as somebody enters into your team? Like what are some of your philosophy around like attracting top talent?
Well, the number one thing we recruit to, in fact, number one thing we attract to really at this point is looking for people who are fit for the culture. We want people who are aggressive and that can go after the business for sure, because production has to be a part of it, but they have to be a fit for the culture, and they have to be people who are going to look out for each other, that genuinely want to be a part of something bigger, help each other. They want to be a part of a growth mindset type environment. And in terms of like the momentum mori stuff, a lot of them, like you said earlier, they're not exposed to such a thing. A lot of people, like I didn't know anything about Marcus Aurelius and meditations and all the things that go into Stoicism or just any of these kinds of things, even 2 years ago. And then you get exposed, you learn about it. Maybe you get a little bit interested, you get a little bit of an interest, and then you read a little bit more. So I teach my team a little bit. If they have an interest, I'll show them more. But it's the foundational principles that I really try to instill. Without going too preachy or too deep into it. I just say, make sure you focus on stuff that matters to you guys.
Speaking to a team lead, because we do have team leads that listen to the podcast that are constantly looking to like grow and looking to attract top talent and looking to really communicate even like a vision, because like I have a fundamental belief that like in order to attract top talent, you yourself need to have a big vision because they need, like, top talent needs to be able to actually come into your world and see the future vision. Like they need to be able to see like they can belong. Now it sounds like you've been able to do that, and clearly you've been able to do that because you've built a super successful real estate business. Like how have you been able to attract top talent and effectively communicate your vision with your organization? Like what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? What does that look like when you're trying to attract talent? Like how did you kind of formulate and create SOPs around like being able to effectively communicate your vision?
I think once you really establish a legitimate culture, not one that's theoretical, but one that's real, and you actually care about your people and they care about you, and you actually have cracked that code, it becomes very natural and it starts happening from within. So a lot of the attraction happens from other agents in my team reaching out and bringing in like-minded people. So a lot of that's happening from them. They're reaching out and they're bringing in people who are like them, who share similar attributes, similar values, systems, and things like that. So a lot of that comes straight from that, because we've already established that trust and that mutual understanding that we really are legit in what we're saying. I'm not just saying something to get them in the door, and then all of a sudden they realize it's smoke and mirrors and it's a bunch of BS. It's real. They know that I actually do care about them, and I might be tough love on them, saying, look, we got to turn a corner on some things. But at the end of the day, they know it's because of the fact I do care. And it's grounded in this core belief system that I want to make sure that they're hitting their objectives, because I want to make sure the quality of life is good. And because I know that time is finite, and I want to make sure that they're doing what they need to do for their family and for their objectives.
I love that. In order to go a little bit more tactical, can you can you break down like kind of how your team structure looks? Like what
Mm-hmm.
do you have a TC? Like how does the team structure look? If somebody if a team lead was out there thinking like, how can I emulate what you're doing, or some of the some of the tactics that you're doing currently in your local market, like how does your team structure currently look with the different offices?
Well, in terms of the attraction front, what I'm doing is I'm encouraging all the various team members, so the sales partners, to reach out and attract, like I said. And then once they do that, I'm having the new people come under them directly, so that there's a mentorship program that's in place, so that they're overseeing them, so that there is a direct mentorship that they're getting compensated for doing, but they also have that tethering effect. So they know them already, they have that relationship, but they have that sense of connectedness in the team, so they don't feel like they're now all of a sudden under the care of me that they don't really know, or somebody else directly. They have that sense of connection to their immediate friend or colleague or whatever who brought them in. And then they also, of course, they have me, or they have the rest of the team, but they have that direct line to go to. So they have that mentoring. They also have, of course, we have administrative support, we have marketing, we have stuff like that, so that people have whatever they need. We have tons of training. We have training multiple times a day, but also not only from our brokerage, but also from the team as well. I want to make sure that I'm bringing out team levels training, which I'm doing myself, because not only does our brokerage put out a lot of stuff, we're with Real, but I want to make sure that we're putting out a lot of training on the team level that's relevant to our local market. Because even though our brokerage is putting out a lot of good content, I want to put out stuff that on the local level is applicable. So stuff that we're talking about in terms of things that just happened at a local builder or whatever might be applicable, so we can make sure we're talking about that. We're doing contracts trainings on the local level. Maybe we're disseminating things that are going on from the other trainings. So we're doing things like that too, tactically. So we're having trainings. So speaking to the tactical stuff, we're doing the trainings. We also have the administrative support. We have the marketing support. And then we have the mentoring. So they have that direct connection there. And then we have one-on-ones with me if they want to go that path. And if they ever want to do that, they can go on Calendly and they can do that as well.
Oh, they can actually book directly into your calendar. They can still speak to you.
Yes.
Directly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because you often hear, as teams grow, it's hard to get access to the team lead, even though you join the team. And I hear that consistently, where it's like, I thought I was going to get access to the team lead, but I don't. So I'm kind of left out on my own island. So that's really cool that you do that. Culture in a company, as an entrepreneur, as a real estate team lead, as a broker, it can be something that, and I hear this consistently. I talk to so many real estate agents that hop from team to team to team. And team leads often, I think a portion of it, from what when I speak to these people, a portion of it is like, they just don't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into, or they're not provided necessarily the support they need in order to do that. But a big portion of it's culture. And you brought up building culture. How does a team lead do that? Tactically, what does culture look like? Because it's not like just a beanie bag chair. It's culture,
right?
It's not like in an office having a pool table. Cool, we do all these things, the standard culture things that you hear in tech startups, for example. What do you think good culture looks like in a team environment in real estate?
I think it starts with a core of a person. So you have to start out with people already being legitimately good. They have to show up with the best of intentions. If you start with somebody who's a rotten apple, it's already going to be a losing proposition. So if you start with someone who's got a good core to start with, that's a good mold you can start. So it's Play-Doh you can already start to mold with. But then you have to build on that with trust. It really comes down to trust, and them knowing that you're not BSing them. You're not just telling them what they want to hear. They can see through that. Especially if they've been around for a while. They've been in the business for a while. They can cut through the spin. They can see that. And if you're real and they can see, especially through other examples, let's say there's a dispute on a split, and you're reasonable about it, and you resolve it. Well, not only do they get reassured and realize that, hey, you're not going to screw them over, but that starts to spread. Just like little rats. They talk, good and bad, right? And if you go and you start penny pinching, you start doing things, and you start screwing people over, it does go against you. And even if you think that you're on the right, that absolutely goes against you, because they will go and they'll spread it, and it becomes a wildfire. And I don't do that. I make sure that I will always talk to the agent. We always will find a win-win, period. And by doing that, I'll even err on the side of the agent to make sure that it's a little bit lopsided, because I want to make sure that they feel that it's never in a situation where they feel like they're getting the losing side or the short end of the stick. But of course, I want to make sure it's fair. We're not going to get taken advantage of either. So it's going to be a win-win. But at the same time, that trust is really what builds on the culture. Plus, we have to have a lot of fun. We have to do other things too outside of business. You have to have the winning, you have to have the success, but you also have to have the fun. So you have to mix it up with social outside of that. So you kind of deflate. So you have to kind of mix it up with a little bit of social outside of just the everyday grind. But then you have to have that trust and that success to mix it all in. So it's a big hybrid.
I love that. And I've seen so many different structures with teams, like in how they operate on a day-to-day function, and how even admin teams operate, like through doing this podcast, but just through also working with so many teams. Like, I'm curious to know, like, what are some things in your local market that are working from a sales perspective? Because, like, for example, like we had a conversation with one of our friends, Chris Spiker, who the way he runs a sales team is very driven off of, like, you have to be over a certain percentage conversion rate in order to get access to pawn leads or access to leads. Like, how are you running like your sales teams, and like what are some things that like team leads should be looking for in order to find people that actually drive income for not just themselves but for the team?
Well, I would say pawn leads are definitely a good one. I think that's a huge opportunity. I think that's definitely an area where agents should be spending a lot of time. We have that model as well. I'll tell you, that's one area that we need to dive deeper in to really optimize. We have a couple agents that have gone in there and they've had success. We have one agent in particular that continually goes in there and he does find some stuff that converts, and he's smart because he's going into an untapped pond, versus the others that are just kind of, messing around with other things. Pond is a really, really good area, because obviously you have a lot of people in there that oftentimes are in there for several years, if not just several months. And a lot of agents think, well, those are old leads. I just want fresh leads, but they don't realize that those leads oftentimes have to gestate for a period of time. You've got a 12, 18 month gestation period oftentimes. So that means that those leads are great. They're very, very ripe. Sometimes they're sitting on the fence for a while, waiting for things to manifest. They're waiting for things to play out in terms of world condition, whatever it is, interest rates now to go up or whatever it is. But either way, they're waiting for things, and now they're in a position to have a conversation. So Pond's great. And other than that, I mean, there's a series of things that we do, but Pond is definitely something that we definitely want to lean into more. And that's actually, it's ironic you said that, because that's something that we are building a system around. That's something that we're optimizing in the next, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to have a really solid Pond system.
How do you keep your team motivated? Is something that I think that I was having a conversation the other day with a team lead, and who's like, it's like, I feel like they said to me, like, half the team feels motivated, the other half the team doesn't feel motivated. How do you keep the team motivated, especially in this market, like where it's now taking, like, a lot of the teams that we're speaking with are telling us that it's taking 22 to 25 conversations in order to get an appointment. Like, it's like it seems like there's a lot more work that is having to happen in order to drive the same amount of results. Like, how do you keep people motivated in an environment right now that is like a lot tougher? Like, what are some things that you're doing to keep your team motivated right now?
Well, my mindset's key, right? So you got to just keep them focused on the positive. You have to try to cut out the BS noise, all the bad stuff as much as humanly possible. I mean, they're going to get it from outside noise as much, once they leave your area. But at the same time, when they're around us, try to put as much positive stuff as you can in front of them. Just try to insulate them from the rest. Other than that, sometimes you can't. Some people are a little bit less motivated in general. Hopefully those are not people that are on your team, but there are some people that are motivated simply from seeing success. So you need to have winners on your team too. And winning does tend to motivate others to win. So steel sharpens steel. And that's what we try to do. We try to have winners on our team. I know even for me, from a production standpoint, when I see other people on our team kicking ass and taking names, it motivates me. And I start thinking, you know what? Okay, I'm going to double down. I'm going to work more now today because I like that. It fires me up more. And I'm a pretty motivated person. But when I see that, I think, you know what? All right, I like this. Let's go. It's go time times 10 now. Let's go. So it's a good overall vibe when you feel that there's winning happening on the local level and not just, again, theoretical, like, oh, there's other people winning. No, but if you see like this guy sitting next to you at the team meeting, he just kicked ass. Well, it fires you up and it makes you do the same.
You're not a lot of like, when I see like when I see my business developers like winning, I'm like, oh man, like I need to, step my game up and I need to do something today. So 100% I'm with you. Now, you mentioned earlier, we were talking about like, you've been connected with Vikram for a long time and like, you guys have both, you both spent some time together in the Tom Ferry network, some coaching. Like, I'm just curious to kind of get your like thought process on coaching. Like, is it something that you think every real estate agent should invest in? Like, at what point do you think that they should invest into coaching? Do you think it's a necessity? Do you think it's something that they can do without? Because I think that there's different mentalities in the space where it's like, I can find a mentor. Like, what's your take on like coaching for a team lead or coaching for a single agent?
Well, I think without a doubt, you need a coach. I mean, I think you need to be in a growth mindset if you ever want to win in anything in life. Look at all the greats in anything. They all had great coaches, mentors, just people that they looked up to. They all did. Even when they were outside of their game, like, Kobe, Jordan, even after they retired, they still had mentors and coaches for many different aspects of their game. And I know for myself, when I didn't have coaches, when I first came in, I was slow. I didn't have a lot of direction. And we had some mentors and stuff, some people that were teaching classes and things like that here and there. Some of them weren't all that qualified. So that was problematic. And then you start getting into a position where you learn some things, but maybe you're learning the wrong things. And that's a problem because, you are learning some stuff, but you might not be learning the stuff you should be learning. So you got to qualify that too. So that if you go to an established system like Tom, for example, or there's several others, but you do something like that, you're most likely going to be leaning into something that's tried true and something that's going to put you in a good direction. Not to say that the coach you're lined up with right away is going to be a great fit, and maybe you have to find a fit that does work for you. But I'll tell you, it changed my life for sure. And I would never go a long stretch without having a coach or a series of coaches and growth material, books, trainings, webinars, just a diverse set of things that are putting great ideas and stuff in front of me. Because without that, you'll go off course. You'll veer in a very negative direction. Absolutely, without a question.
I 100% agree with you there. Like, it's funny, like, every once in a while we get on podcasts and we're like, somebody will say something and you'll be like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Where it's like this, like podcast has been like, I agree with you. Like, it's like, it's the ethos to life where it's like, I know Vikram and I share the very similar type of ethos where, it's like we try to get to 4 live events a year because, we have a fundamental core belief that live events change lives. Like it just does. Every time I go to a live event, even if I'm not necessarily listening to the speaker, it's like it puts me in an environment of other like-minded people that like just like gets the juices flowing. It's like, oh, what if I did this in my local market? Like, what if I did this? And it's like we constantly are trying to go to live events. For you, us being in a shifting market, and I kind of want to close up with this. Like, we're in a totally different market than we were in 2020, 2021. Like we're like, our friend Sharon Srivatsa says this all the time. We're now in a skills-based market. Like, what are some things that, like, 2-part question. What are some things that real estate agents are doing right now that you think just aren't working, and some things that you're avoiding? Mm-hmm. And what are some things that real estate agents should be doing or real estate team leads should be doing that many think aren't working that actually do work? So I'm really curious to kind of get your insight on this as we kind of like wrap up today.
Well, I think lack of consistency is something that's just always a problem. Just got to be consistent. You got to make sure that you have a really good system. Just follow up for sure all the time. Follow up, making sure that you're just on point with that. Making sure that you're always in a growth mindset again. Making sure that you are always putting in good stuff, finding new systems, new ways of doing things. You're not getting set in an old way of doing things. You're always trying to develop and trying to plus the way you're doing things before. Being open-minded speaks to the growth mindset. But that consistency is really important, because oftentimes what will happen is you'll have a really solid day. You'll put in a lot of work. You'll feel like you've made a lot of progress. You'll have a great kick-ass day, and then the next day you'll fall off. So it'll level out. So it'll average to an okay 2 days. Well, so much for your kick-ass day. All of a sudden, just became 2 average days. So it's having that consistency is really, really important. That's a big one. But also, I think the biggest one is just having people around you that are significantly better. Like, they say that, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I've taken pride in being in the right room a lot of the time and being the dumbest one in the room, and trying to find my way to bring value to those people and really trying to bring the best out of myself to try to bring value. And it's hard because I've been around a lot of really, really smart people, like you mentioned, Chris Spiker, he's a great guy, very smart guy. I've been with him, smart guy, Vic too. I mean, you guys are smart people. And, I'll be with Sharon next week. These are people that are really, really smart people. And by being around them, it helps you grow and expand. And it also allows you to really expand not only what you're thinking based on what they're talking about, but after you leave them, it helps you continue to expand and hopefully bring value to them based on the conversations you've had. So that I think is so important, to increase the level, the circle that you're around, and really be mindful of the circle that you're around. Because if you're around a circle that you've been comfortable with, you might have to evaluate that continually and change that, even though it might be uncomfortable to do so.
So good. It's like, it's the ethos to life. Like when I read your form and like I was like, oh, Memento Mori, like back in my old office when I was originally living in Peterborough, an hour east of Toronto, I literally had Memento Mori on my door. I had a guy sketch it on my door, and like, it's just like,
it's awesome.
You just, it creates such a different, ideology towards life, towards like, wanting to show up as your best each and every day, and be like, you're no longer fighting against the people that you're no longer trying to compete against anyone else. You're competing against yourself. You want to be the better version of you. And that's really what I believe Memento Mori has done for me. And Randy, I just I want to say thank you more than anything for, coming on our show today. Like, really do appreciate it. If somebody were listening to this podcast, an agent, a team lead, and they said, hey, I want to reach out, maybe it's an agent to agent referral. Maybe they just kind of want to pick your brain around something. Maybe they want to join your team. Where's the best place that we can send them to in order for you to have a conversation with them?
Sure. They can check out our website, of course, randyplaice.com. Last name is Plaice. Or they can always just call me or text me directly, 818-294-0414, or I'm on all the social channels. Reach out to me there too. Always here.
Randy, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.